Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we will start looking at our include and require statements in PHP. Now, just to give you a bit of background as to why include and or require are useful, we would have been so far creating a few pages. Each time we go ahead and create a new page, we would include the same code every time. All right. So let's start off with our index page. We have the HTML5 boilerplate, and yes, we have a menu. All right. On the next page, which let's say it's array, we have the same HTML5 boilerplate. The only difference is that it doesn't have a menu. Now, in website design, it is always best practice that every page can be gotten to from any page, meaning the menu should not just be on our index page, but it should also be present on every other page. And you can just imagine how tedious it is that every time we create a page, we have to remember to include the menu. It was already kind of tedious doing the HTML5 boilerplate each time. And the fact is, down the road, as our website grows, maybe we have a change to make in the links in the menu. Then if we had 50 pages, we would have to go through and make those changes to 50 pages individually. Now, our include or require directives, they basically do the same thing, just a little difference in the way they operate, but they actually allow us to include snippets of code or snippets of, PHP or HTML wherever we want. So it would be similar to how we do a function just now, where with a function, you have a block of code that you don't want to write over and over and over. So you just put it inside of a function and call it when you want. Well, our include or require statements allow us to take bits of code, like for instance, the heading part of an HTML page, put it in a file, and then just call it on demand. So in this tutorial, we'll start rearranging or restructuring our pages to be a bit more, flexible. So instead of being static like this, where we have to make sure that this code is the same everywhere, we're going to kind of have it one place and just include it in every other page as we go along. We'll also look at having a proper folder structure so that we know what files are for what and where to find everything once we start putting more resources into our website. Now, the first order of business is to create a folder, and I'm going to call this folder includes. And that is just, there's no particular reason for it. Some people call it snippets, some people call it includes. It's up to you. You can call it what you want. But essentially, this folder is going to play host to every code snippet that I intend to include on every page. So the first snippet that I want is the entire snippet of the top part of the HTML pages up to the menu, because I want all of this block of code that I have highlighted here to be on every page. Once again, we all have all of the boilerplate code, but we don't have the menu. So the menu is makeshift right now. Don't look at the aesthetics. I just wanted to get the concept of having a more templated website. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a file inside the folder. So I'm just going to click the folder, and you can always tell a folder different from the files because it has that little caret, or it's pointing to the right when it's collapsed, and when you click on it and it expands, it points down. All right, so I'm just going to click on it, and I know it's selected because of the blue, and then I'm going to create a new file inside that folder, and I'm going to call this one header.php. And the reason I'm calling it header is that the header file is going to have all of what should be at the top of the page for me, and that's me. That's how I'm designing it, so you don't have to follow that, but I'm trying to keep the names as useful as possible so that anybody who comes along will see it and just deduce what it's for. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually take all of this code, all of this bit of code, and cut it from this file. Look at that. Now remember that every HTML page should have that structure. That's why they gave us the boilerplate, so we all have the skeleton. But what I'm about to do is butcher the skeleton inside my code, because I want to be able to include it on demand. All right, so I'm going to take out all of the top part, and I'm just going to undo and do it once again. So that's from the doc type straight up to the closing UL. So that's all of the head and the starting tags for the body and everything else that should be on the page. Well, at least everything else for the menu I'm taking all of that and I'm going to cut, and then I'm going to go to header and I'm going to paste it. And now if I go back to my page, and sorry, I still have that functions file open. If I go back to my index page, I'll see, okay, there's no menu and it's sort of rendering properly. But then if I look at the code, I just pressed F12. So I'm using Internet Explorer, and F12 brought up the inspect element console. And you don't have to do this part. I'm just showing you that, well, Internet Explorer is trying to compensate for the fact that I did not properly form my page. So you would remember that the head tag had far more code in that, and the body tag is there. But if on a normal day in a lesser browser, this would not have happened. It would just be probably errors. All right. So the fact is, I ripped it out of the head, and so Internet Explorer is trying to make do with the new code, which does not have all of this stuff in the head. So you see, the head tag actually had stuff in there, and the body tag started and didn't finish, but that's all in header. So what I'm going to do now is use a keyword that says include, and then after include, I have quotation marks, and I can use single quotation marks. And then I am going to make reference to the file that I wish to include. So, well, firstly, this has to be inside of PHP tags. So PHP, my bad. All right. And then we say include, which is our keyword. There we go. There's that color coding we're looking for. And then the file. So the file that I want to include at the top of my index page is my header file, and the header file is inside of the includes folder. So that means I need to say includes, because I need to make reference to the path / header.php. So all those 13 lines of code just got reduced to 1. So we just have that, well, 20 lines of code, one place here, and we just make the change one place, and then on any other page we can just use this line to make reference to it. And let's test the theory. So if I go back and reload my index page, there I am. I'm restored to what I had before. I have my menu. All right. And if I inspect element again, and having pressed F12 the first time, it now allows me to inspect element or view source here. But I'm seeing that the code looks like what it used to look like. So the browser is no longer compensating for me. It's just giving me back. All right. So that is essentially how the include works. And just to build on this, I can actually go ahead and use that block of code anywhere else. So I'm going to start removing all of the top part of every file. All right. So we went up to body. Let's just review header. So we have up to the body tag, and then we have the menu. So I want the menu on every page without having to put in all those 20 tags over and over and over again. So I'm just going to start removing up to the body tag and just replacing it with the header. All right. And I can do that with each page, and I'll just do it. And we can do that together. It's quite simple. Just click each one and then save as we go along, of course. So this is functions, the if statement, and you notice that I'm kind of changing the title. So the title is actually going to be changing each time, right? Because it was set to one value inside of header, but we'll get back to that. We will revisit that. So we're almost done. And now, if I refresh my pages and I go to any one of them, I see that I have that menu there. So that is one nice, simple, surefire way to make sure that your menu, this link was put in incorrectly. We can fix that. But this is one surefire way to know that we can include or have our menu static and consistent across all pages. And if it is that we need to make a change, like for instance, string manipulation, the link here is wrong. I wrote sting manip, not string manip. So instead of having to go and change it in all of these files, I can just go one place to the header, update the link, save the change, And then if I go back to any other page and refresh, then string manipulation now works. And if I'm on the if statement, it works on every page. All right. So that is how you would go about trying to keep your pages consistent without having to copy and paste and then worry about opening 5-6 different places in the future. Now we can go about doing the same thing with the footer of the page. Now if I go back to my index page, I can show you that I put in a bit of extra code down here to actually echo copyright, copy 1999 to, and the date today. So that's a nice quick way to get the year. All right. And well, I got the snippet from those 3 schools. So I'll just say PHP masterclass. Now, as it stands, this code is only set to appear on only the index page. So let me just prove that. So if I go back home, and it's always good to have a link that leads home. As you see, I don't have one. So that block of code or that block of text is only available on the index page. It's not on the loop page. It's not on any other page. So I'm going to do 2 things right now. One, I'm going to include a link home. So I'm going to go to my header, and then I'm going to include a link to index. And remember, once we make the change here in this file that will be included, it will be included on every other page, right? So this would be home. All right. So we looked at how we include. Now I want to look at how we require. Now require is pretty much the same thing. So we'll just require the footer. So I'm going to go back to includes, and I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call this one footer.php. And then inside footer, I'm going to take the rest of the body tag. So I'm going to start from here with this PHP tag and take the rest of the body tag and the HTML. So remember that your body tag and the HTML tags, they must open and close properly. So we're already opening them inside of our header.php. So here's where body opens and here's where HTML opens. So I'm just going to take the closing portions as well as this footer notation, and I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to put it inside of footer.php. Now what I need to do is include footer.php on this page, and you see how much less code we have on this page right now. It's just purely PHP. All right, so I'm going to just say open up another PHP tag. I can have as many tags as I want, but I really don't need that many. I can actually just use one tag and do everything. All right, but let's just keep it simple for now. And then I'm going to use require this time. So we have require, and you notice you also have require once. So require actually creates a dependency on the file. So let me say that a different way. When you include, if the file is not found, so let's say I messed up the reference to the file and it can't find the file, or I'm trying to include a file that's probably just not there, then it will probably shoot a little warning, but the page will load regardless. When you require, if it cannot find the file, the rest of the page crashes or nothing afterwards gets rendered. All right. So I'm going to say includes, which is my folder name, and then slash and the file name, which is footer.php. And then I can do that across all the pages. So every other page, and I still have them open, I'm just going to replace the closing tags with the requirement for footer. And I'll just do that quickly. And now that is done, we can actually just go back and observe to see. So the new menu is there. And at the end of each page, we have the copyright. So that's on the arrays page. If I look on the if statements page, it's there. If I look on the functions page, it's there, and it's everywhere. So that's a nice, quick and clean way to include or make sure a bit of code or a bit of text or something that should always be there is on every page without having to type it back to in a very manual way. Now, in doing this what you call refactoring of the code, we hit one little challenge. Each page was displaying its own title up until now. So every page is set to just statically show PHP primer-index. And that's because we would have included the header and set that part of it to be very, very, very static. So what I'm going to do is include a PHP tag here, and we're going to try and make this dynamic. And inside here, I'm going to echo a variable that I'm going to call title. All right, so work with me. We have our title tag, which we know we just put in the text, PHP primer dash the page name. Now at this point, we have the header appearing once, meaning this code is defined once. It's only being referenced everywhere else. So there's no longer an opportunity for us to just spin up a page and say, oh, the title is PHP primer dash whatever the page is. No, we only have it one place. So we either define one text or we try and make it dynamic. And this is how we're making it dynamic, by inserting a PHP tag, and we're going to echo whatever value is set to title. All right. Now you're probably wondering, what is this variable title? When did we declare a variable title? We haven't yet. All right. So if I reload the page, then okay, you're seeing that it's only printing back something, and it's going to say undefined variable something something something. So if you're following along, then you should be able to see that error more clearly than maybe it's appearing on my screen. So we need to change that error and let it stop complaining about an undefined variable. So what we would do is, on each page, because we know what the page is about, above our includes, we can just include, or rather make mention of, a variable called title. So in the same PHP block that I'm including, right, I'm just going to refactor this so you can see where it starts and stops. I'm going to declare some variable called title. And the reason this declaration has to come before the includes is that the variable has to exist before header gets included, because it's looking for a title by the time it hits this line. So if I declare it before and give it a value, and I call this page index, and then I refresh my index page, so I go back to index, all right, and there I see index, PHP primer dash index. And I use the command I can just fix that, use a capital I, and then when I refresh, I see it updates it. So then we can start doing that across all the pages, because remember, up until now, when we declare a new page or create a new page, what we would have done is make sure that our title reflects the new page. So once again, you can't put it there because it's a PHP variable, so it needs to be in the PHP block. So I can just use this PHP block that has the include, and I like to have my code indented. So I'll spend a lot of time indenting my code, but I'll just do this one, and then I'll do the rest off screen and allow you to do it for yourself to get the practice. So I'm just declaring that the title of this page is array, and that is once again being declared above the include line. So when I go to my array page, it should say PHP primer dash array, because my header is once again, just for reinforcement, printing PHP primer dash. That will never change unless I come and change it here. But then I have a variable that is being echoed to the rest of that bit of string inside of that tag. So go ahead and update all the other pages with the correct title. All right, so I trust that you went ahead and updated it on all the pages. And by the time you're done with that exercise, every page should be saying the title with PHP primer dash whatever it is. And that should be dynamic according to the page that you're on. All right, so when you see these big websites like Amazon and eBay doing this stuff, that's all they're really doing. They're just setting a variable and printing that variable where it matters. So by extension, if we were able to declare that and remember that whatever we set in the title is what we set in the H1 tag, then I can simply take the same title that was declared up here for the purpose of the includes and actually echo this very title here. So I can declare a tag inside of my HTML tags. See that? So we know we could echo HTML tags from inside PHP. Well, inside of the HTML tag, you can just put in a PHP tag and then echo your variable. All right. And then if I go on my arrays page, even after I just butchered the code like this, I should see the h1 tag saying arrays. So when I go to arrays, there we go. Now I notice that my link says array and printouts, and I'm only saying arrays. How do I change that? Then I would need to say arrays and printouts one time, just change it one time in title, and then it will update inside of the actual title tag in header, and it will update in the h1 tag once it gets rendered. And let's test that theory. So I can just refresh this page, and there we see arrays and printouts and arrays and printouts. So this is a nice quick way to get your code up and running and dynamic, reduce the redundancy and the potential errors and the maintenance nightmare that's going to come with having multiple points where you're repeating your code. So just to review what we did, firstly, we looked at having a folder structure. So we have all of our pages that we know we need to navigate to, but then we had some scripts that we needed to include, and we called those we put those in a folder called includes. You could call this folder anything you want. You could call it scripts, whatever it is, but just make sure that the name is clear enough that somebody can see the folder and deduce what is in there. And also the file names should be rather clear. We also looked at using the include statement and the require statement, and we deduced that the include is far less destructive to the rendering of a page, meaning if it can't find the file, it will still try to render the page as best as possible, but just shooting a warning that the file doesn't exist. Whereas the require will actually break your code, break your page, stop the processing of your application because it cannot find the file. We also looked at how using variables can make our life easier and how we can include them at different points around our website where we know that they will come in handy. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be sure to get back to you.